Millionaire wanted a divorce, never expected his pregnant wife was savior he had been searching for. Daniel Caldwell had it all: luxury cars, exclusive business deals, and a trophy home in a gated community just outside of Boston. To the world, he appeared on top of his game, a relentless financier whose every move minted more money. But behind closed doors, he was suffocating. He saw his wife, Amanda, as a mere shadow in his mansion, a pretty face that no longer fueled his ambitions. And so he made the drastic choice: end the marriage, start fresh, chase even greater success. Yet just when Daniel thought he could easily discard his wife, he discovered a truth that would change everything. Amanda was his greatest salvation. Daniel Caldwell was born and raised in a lower middle-class neighborhood in Waltham, Massachusetts. His father worked 2 jobs, daytime as a mechanic at a local garage and night shifts at a warehouse, just to keep food on the table. His mother juggled part-time gigs, cleaning houses or babysitting for neighbors. From a young age, Daniel witnessed how fragile economic security could be, and he vowed never to endure the same struggles. With dogged resolve, he hustled his way into a scholarship at Boston College, majoring in finance. By the time he graduated, he had his sights set on Wall Street. He moved to New York, worked 18-hour days, sacrificed weekends and relationships, and ultimately returned to Boston triumphantly at age 30, flush with success. A few savvy investments and a genius for reading stock market trends transformed Daniel Caldwell into a budding millionaire. He poured part of his fortune into establishing Caldwell Capital, a boutique investment firm that quickly attracted high-profile clients across New England. His name graced the covers of finance magazines. He was the wunderkind from Waltham. During his meteoric rise, Daniel met Amanda Brooks at a charity auction in Back Bay. She was a volunteer coordinator for the Boston Children's Hospital fundraiser, exuding warmth and kindness in every gesture. A Brown University graduate in social work, Amanda came from a modest family in Rhode Island. She believed in community, compassion, and giving back to society. Daniel saw her as a grounding force, someone with a heart of gold who balanced his cutthroat ambition with genuine empathy. After a whirlwind courtship, they married in a lavish ceremony by the Charles River. For a while, they seemed the perfect match, the hard-driving financier and the benevolent social worker, each providing what the other lacked. Friends praised how Amanda softened Daniel's rough edges, and Daniel's resources allowed Amanda to expand her philanthropic endeavors. They purchased a stunning house in a gated community in Weston, complete with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and an infinity pool overlooking perfectly manicured lawns. Yet as Caldwell Capital soared to new heights, Daniel found himself consumed by the pressure to keep winning. More deals, more accolades, more expansions. Late nights at the office morphed into weekend flights to Asia, Europe, or Silicon Valley. Amanda's once comforting presence became a background detail in his daily schedule. She tried to maintain closeness, planning intimate dinners or short trips, but Daniel's phone never stopped buzzing. He would rush to answer urgent calls from London or Hong Kong, leaving her alone in candlelit restaurants. Over time, frustration replaced the initial enchantment, and then the cracks began to appear in full force. Amanda felt she was losing Daniel to a relentless parade of business priorities. While her philanthropic projects had flourished, she established the Caldwell Community Initiative, focusing on underprivileged youth in Boston. Daniel was largely absent from the press events and galas. He would cut a check, but rarely show up in person, half-heartedly citing his busy schedule. When they were together, conversation felt strained. Daniel expected Amanda to be content with his financial support, failing to notice how disconnected she felt. On the rare nights he was home, he was restless, checking market updates on his phone. Tension simmered beneath the surface, unspoken but palpable. Amanda sometimes confided in her friend, Catherine O'Neill, whom she'd met through charity circles. Catherine would listen intently, encouraging Amanda to communicate openly with Daniel. But Daniel grew defensive whenever Amanda brought up her loneliness or the possibility that money wasn't everything. He brushed aside her concerns, inwardly convinced that everything was fine so long as the bank accounts were thriving. Neither realized that the silent gap between them was widening into a chasm. And Daniel, blinded by success, was one step away from making a decision that could shatter their bond and ultimately change their lives forever. The day Daniel first uttered the word divorce was a humid summer afternoon in August. He had just returned from a grueling 3-day negotiation in Tokyo, haggling over a multi-million-dollar hedge fund deal. Jet-lagged and irritable, he found Amanda sitting on the patio, sipping iced tea. Normally, her presence would evoke a sense of welcome in him, but this time he felt only an unexplainable heaviness pressing on his chest. Amanda looked up, smiling warmly, as he stepped out onto the patio. "Hey, you're back," she greeted, setting her glass down. "How did it go?" He shrugged, dropping into the wicker chair beside her. "Fine, we closed the deal, but it was draining." She reached for his hand. "I'm proud of you. I know it's tough traveling so often, but look how far you've come." He pulled his hand away, leaning back to stare at the yard. The hedges were perfectly trimmed, the lawn an emerald carpet. In that fleeting moment, he felt suffocated by the perfection he'd built around him. Every little piece of his world had to be polished, including his marriage. And yet, he wasn't happy. He'd begun to wonder if Amanda was part of his stress rather than his relief. "You know, it's odd," Daniel began, voice edgy. "You're proud of me for working myself to the bone, but I can't remember the last time I came home and felt at home." She frowned, puzzled. "What do you mean?" His frustration boiled over in a rush of words he hadn't planned. "I'm always on the move. We barely talk anymore. When we do, it's about your charity events or the house. There's nothing, no spark, no excitement. I just feel trapped." Amanda's face fell. "Trapped? By me?" Daniel hesitated, guilt tugging at him, but the resentment took hold. "I don't know. Maybe we married too quickly. I was so obsessed with building this perfect life that I never stopped to think if this is what I really want. You do your thing, I do mine. We're strangers most of the time." Tears welled in Amanda's eyes, but she held them back. "If you feel that way, let's work on it, Daniel. Let's figure it out together. I still believe in us." He looked away, jaw clenched. "I'm not sure if there's anything to figure out. I've been thinking, maybe we should consider a divorce." The word hung in the air like a lightning strike. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, searching for any sign of regret in his eyes, but all she saw was exhaustion and frustration. "But do you really want that, or are you just overwhelmed?" Her voice trembled. Daniel exhaled sharply. "I need space to think, to decide if we're genuinely compatible or if we're just holding on to a fantasy that's long gone. I'm not saying it's definite, but we should be realistic." Amanda swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. She recognized that he had pulled away in recent months, but never imagined he would talk about ending their marriage so casually. "If you need space, take it. But please don't throw away our vows on a whim." He rose, ignoring the ache in his chest. Part of him wanted to comfort her, to say he was sorry. But the heavier part was consumed by an insistent voice, whispering that maybe freedom was the key to his happiness. "I'm going to my study. I'll be staying in the guest room for a while," he said quietly, before turning to leave. Amanda remained on the patio, iced tea forgotten on the table, her world tilting off its axis. She gazed across the pristine yard, realizing that all the external perfection in the world couldn't shield them from internal decay. Their marriage was now teetering on the brink, and Daniel seemed prepared to push it over the edge. In the days that followed Daniel's shocking declaration, a chilly silence settled over the Caldwell mansion. Even the staff, housekeepers, gardeners, and the occasional private chef seemed to sense the heavy tension. Amanda kept to her routines, organizing the next fundraising gala for the Caldwell Community Initiative, visiting the hospital wards where her volunteers worked, and meeting with local businesses to secure sponsorships. She tried to conceal her anguish behind a poised, gracious exterior. Daniel, on the other hand, dove deeper into his business dealings, as though submerging himself in spreadsheets and negotiations might drown out his emotional turmoil. He avoided Amanda whenever possible, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night, or sometimes not at all. He found reasons to stay in a luxury suite at the Marriott near his office in downtown Boston, telling himself it was simply more efficient for business. During one of these nights away from home, Daniel received an unexpected call from his old mentor, Mark Sanderson. Mark was a private wealth consultant who had guided Daniel in his early Wall Street days. They hadn't spoken in months. "Daniel, I heard rumors you're looking to expand Caldwell Capital into real estate investments," Mark said after a brief exchange of pleasantries. "I have a potential partner from Los Angeles who might be interested in a joint venture. Let's grab dinner tomorrow night to discuss." Daniel agreed readily. Any new venture was a welcome distraction. They met the next evening at an upscale steakhouse in Back Bay. After the initial talk of expansions and potential deals, Mark regarded Daniel with a fatherly concern. "You don't look well, kid," Mark said, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "Dark circles under your eyes, scowl etched into your face. This business chewing you up more than usual?" Daniel forced a dry laugh. "Just a rough patch. I'll manage." Mark studied him for a moment. "Amanda okay?" Daniel winced. We're on shaky ground. Thinking about a divorce, actually." Mark leaned back, eyebrows raised. "A divorce? Amanda's a gem, Daniel. What happened?" He shrugged, bristling at the probing question. "We've grown apart. She's always caught up in her charity events. I'm traveling the world. We barely talk." Mark's voice softened. "Is that a reason to walk away, or a sign that you need to figure out why the marriage fell apart?" Daniel stiffened. "Don't moralize me. I need clarity, that's all. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe we're mismatched." Mark sighed, tapping his fingers on the table. "I'm not trying to moralize you. Just remember something. You've spent years cultivating your professional life. Amanda's put her heart into building a world where you're still her partner, even if she does her philanthropic work. You think walking away will make you happier? Or is it just an escape from dealing with your own shadows?" A surge of irritation and discomfort rose in Daniel, but he pushed it down. "Thanks for the concern, but it's my decision. Let's focus on the real estate venture, all right?" Mark nodded, though his eyes betrayed concern. The conversation shifted to business strategies, but the tension remained. Later that night, in the quiet of his hotel suite, Daniel couldn't sleep. He scrolled aimlessly through photos of recent Caldwell Capital events. Amanda appeared in some of them, radiant and confident, shaking hands with donors and hugging children at the hospital. He remembered the day she'd pitched her dream of a community initiative to him. She was so passionate, so convinced that their wealth could transform lives. At the time, he'd felt proud of her sincerity and proud to be associated with someone so kind. Now he questioned everything. Was it possible that Amanda deserved more than a husband who wanted out the moment things got complicated? Did he truly want freedom, or was he simply running from the demands of emotional intimacy? Yet whenever these doubts surfaced, Daniel banished them with a stubborn pride that refused to acknowledge vulnerability. He was Daniel Caldwell, self-made millionaire, unstoppable force in the financial world. If a relationship no longer served him, wasn't it logical to end it? But logic rarely rules the heart, and as the night stretched on, he realized his quiet unraveling had just begun. While Daniel contemplated the legality of divorce in his downtown office, Amanda wrestled with her own inner turmoil. She knew that logically she couldn't force him to stay if he was dead set on leaving, but she also realized that something deeper was plaguing him, something more than just marital mismatch. She saw it in the hollow look in his eyes, the constant agitation, and a certain restlessness that had plagued him since he'd returned from Tokyo. Yet Daniel had become a closed book. He barely responded to her messages, and when he did come home, he avoided her gaze. Amanda confided her fears in Catherine O'Neill over coffee one morning at Tat Bakery Cafe on Charles Street. She revealed every detail: Daniel's talk of divorce, the emotional distance, her sense that something was deeply wrong. Catherine listened intently. "Have you tried counseling?" she asked. Amanda nodded. "Daniel dismisses the idea, says it's pointless if he's already leaning toward ending things." Catherine pursed her lips. "Then maybe focus on yourself. If he wants space, give it, but don't lose who you are. Keep doing your philanthropic work. Keep shining your light. If Daniel is meant to be part of your future, he'll realize what he's throwing away." Amanda took a sip of her latte, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered. "He used to be so loving. Now it's like he's carrying a secret burden. I can't reach him." In the weeks that followed, Amanda poured herself into the Caldwell Community Initiative's biggest fundraiser of the year, a glitzy gala at the Boston Public Library, aimed at raising money to build a children's counseling center in Roxbury. She worked tirelessly with local businesses, recruiting top chefs to donate their culinary talents and rallying artists to auction off their work. The event promised to be a pinnacle achievement for her philanthropic mission. In the background, Daniel prepared for the launch of Caldwell Capital's new real estate division. While ignoring personal calls from Amanda, he accepted a barrage of invitations to speak at investor forums, to pose for financial magazines, and to host dinner parties for potential backers. He insisted on the importance of building an unstoppable brand, one that would overshadow any personal scandal. One day, a document arrived at the Caldwell mansion addressed to Amanda, a preliminary divorce agreement from Daniel's legal team. Her heart hammered as she flipped through the pages filled with property divisions and clauses. A part of her shattered at the coldness with which their life together was now being reduced to bullet points and fine print. But instead of breaking down, she felt a surge of determination. This might be the final push to do something radical, something to save the man she once knew was in Daniel's heart. Under the guidance of Catherine and a few trusted colleagues, Amanda resolved to keep the divorce talk private until after the upcoming gala. Public scandal could jeopardize months of fundraising work. She also needed time to formulate a plan, a way to reach Daniel's hidden pain. In her search for answers, she stumbled upon an old binder in Daniel's library, labeled Family Accounts. Inside, she found letters written by Daniel's father, a man who had passed away years before. The letters spoke of financial desperation, hospital bills that needed paying, and a forced mortgage foreclosure. Amanda's throat tightened as she realized how deeply ingrained Daniel's fear of poverty truly was. Every sleepless night, every frantic trip, every massive deal, he was running from the ghosts of his childhood, terrified that a single misstep could send him back into hardship. Though she wept reading those letters, she also felt an unshakable resolve crystallize within her. She couldn't fix Daniel's trauma for him, but perhaps she could help him confront it, if only he would let her in. With the gala date fast approaching, Amanda made a silent vow she would make one last stand for their marriage, no matter the cost. The night of the Caldwell Community Initiative Gala arrived, promising an elegant affair. The Boston Public Library's marble floors glistened under crystal chandeliers, and ornate arches were adorned with fresh flowers. Influential donors, city officials, and local celebrities filed in, wearing their finest attire, eager to mingle, donate, and applaud Amanda's charitable efforts. Caterers circulated with trays of champagne and gourmet canapés, while a string quartet provided soft, melodic tunes. Amanda, dressed in an emerald green evening gown, greeted guests with a practiced smile. Inside, she felt like a bundle of nerves. She glanced at the massive clock above the library's entrance, noticing that Daniel was over an hour late. Her anxiety mounted. Part of her prayed he would come, or at least show some sign of support. Another part feared his arrival might trigger the unveiling of their marital crisis to the entire city. Finally, 2 hours into the event, Daniel entered, exuding an aura of sleek confidence in a tailored tuxedo. Photographers swarmed around him, and the flicker of camera flashes illuminated the tension in his eyes. Amanda stepped aside from her conversation with a local politician and made her way over, heart pounding. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. He gave a terse nod. "Of course. Don't want to embarrass the initiative." Amanda swallowed, hating the formality between them. "I really appreciate it," she managed. Before they could exchange more words, a tall, silver-haired man approached them. Michael Redwood, CEO of Redwood Enterprises and one of the top donors of the night. "Amanda, fantastic job organizing this event," Redwood praised, shaking her hand enthusiastically. Then he turned to Daniel. "And Caldwell Capital is always a name we respect. Glad to see you here." Daniel offered a polite smile. "Pleasure to be here, Michael." Amanda introduced Redwood to a few other donors, then excused herself to handle a minor crisis with the event staff. Daniel was left alone, swirling his champagne and scanning the crowd. He noticed the admiration people had for Amanda. She was truly in her element, warm, unruffled, and passionately discussing the Foundation's goals. A pang of something, regret, stabbed at him, but he suppressed it. An hour later, Amanda took the stage to deliver her keynote speech. A hush fell over the audience as she described the impetus behind the new Children's Counseling Center, the vision of providing mental health resources to families who couldn't afford them. Her voice trembled with emotion when she cited personal stories, children who had been helped, families who had found hope. As Daniel watched from the sidelines, he felt a mixture of pride and envy. Her ability to connect with people, to care so deeply, was both mesmerizing and alien to him. He found himself momentarily questioning if his desire for divorce was truly justified, but then he reminded himself of how exhausted he felt. His empire demanded so much of him, and her world often felt like an afterthought in his life. Amanda ended her speech with a heartfelt thank you and introduced a special musical performance. Applause thundered through the hall. She stepped down and was immediately surrounded by well-wishers. Reporters asked for interviews. Donors praised her vision. The entire scene felt like a celebration of her unstoppable compassion. And then, out of nowhere, one of the reporters sidled up to Daniel. "Mr. Caldwell, any truth to the rumors about trouble in your marriage?" the reporter asked, camera rolling. Daniel's mouth went dry. "Where did you hear that?" The reporter shrugged, relentless. "Sources say you've been staying at hotels. We were hoping for a comment." In the corner of his eye, Daniel saw Amanda watching, horror etched on her face. A hush began to spread as people realized the reporter was asking personal questions. Daniel, typically so suave under pressure, stammered, "No comment." Amanda rushed forward, gently steering the reporter away. "This is a night to celebrate the Children's Counseling Center," she said firmly, her cheeks burning. "We're not discussing personal matters here." Yet the damage was done. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Donors exchanged curious glances. Cameras snapped furiously. Tension soared as Daniel's private life bled into Amanda's philanthropic moment. In that instant, Daniel realized their secrets were no longer just between them. The city's elite now caught wind that something was amiss. Feeling cornered and exposed, he downed the rest of his champagne and slipped out of the library, ignoring Amanda's stricken expression. She watched him go, tears welling in her eyes. The gala that was supposed to be a beacon of hope had become the stage for their very public unraveling. The following morning, Boston's gossip columns and social media feeds buzzed with speculation about the Caldwells' marriage. The photos from the gala showed a radiant Amanda clutching the microphone and a tense Daniel, clearly avoiding eye contact with her. Rumors snowballed. Some claimed Daniel was in love with someone else. Others suggested Amanda had grown too big for her boots, overshadowing her husband. The tabloids had a field day, splashing dramatic headlines like, Caldwell Capital, storm on the home front? And charity and chaos, are the Caldwells breaking apart? At Caldwell Capital, Daniel tried to maintain a calm facade, focusing on the new real estate division's final negotiations. But the stares from his employees and the hushed conversations in the corridors made it impossible to ignore the fiasco. He received a polite but pointed email from the board of directors, subtly expressing concern about the negative media attention. If an ugly divorce dragged their brand into the mud, it could cost them millions in lost partnerships. Investors, especially those with family-oriented brands, were wary of scandal. Meanwhile, Amanda spent the morning fielding calls from sponsors of the Children's Counseling Center. Many pledged continued support, praising her resilience, but others voiced concerns that drama might overshadow the initiative's noble goals. Each conversation drained her. Catherine O'Neill and Mark Sanderson both reached out, offering sympathy and advice, but Amanda felt too disheartened to respond more than politely. That afternoon, Amanda found herself in the office of her longtime therapist, Dr. Althea Rosen. She had booked the appointment in desperation, hoping to find some clarity. Tearfully, she recounted the events of the gala, the divorce papers, Daniel's emotional unavailability. "It's as though he's built an impenetrable wall around himself," Amanda said, clutching a tissue. "And every time I try to get close, he freezes me out more. I'm torn between letting him go and fighting for him." Dr. Rosen's voice was gentle. "What do you want most, Amanda? Is it truly the marriage, or is it ensuring Daniel doesn't self-destruct under his own pressures?" Amanda hesitated. "I love him, and I see he's hurting, but I can't let him drag me down if he's already decided I'm not part of his future." Dr. Rosen nodded. "Perhaps focus on your needs first. If you love him, you can try to help, but not at the expense of your own well-being." Later, Amanda returned to the mansion, finding it eerily quiet. Daniel's assistant had emailed her, stating he'd be traveling to New York for an investor meeting. Her eyes fell on the stack of unopened mail on the foyer table. Among the envelopes was a formal invitation to a high-profile real estate conference in Manhattan, naming Daniel as a keynote speaker. Amanda felt a pang of irony. He was forging ahead with business as usual, while their personal life lay in ruins. That night, unable to sleep, Amanda walked through the corridors, stopping at Daniel's study. She flicked on the lamp and surveyed the shelves lined with finance books and trophies for Caldwell Capital's accolades. On the massive mahogany desk lay an old photo from their wedding day. They were toasting each other under a canopy of fairy lights, faces glowing with love and excitement. Amanda picked up the photo, tears blurring her vision. How had they come to this point? In a locked drawer, she found an envelope of personal documents, some medical reports from years ago, receipts from a therapist in New York, and notes scribbled in Daniel's handwriting. A single phrase caught her eye. "What if I fail?" She clutched the papers, heart aching. Behind Daniel's bravado was a crippling fear of failure, one that might be driving him to push everyone away. Yet even as she understood him better, she knew that knowledge alone wasn't enough to bridge the chasm. If Daniel refused to acknowledge his own demons, the best intentions in the world wouldn't save their marriage. The one question that haunted her most was whether she had the strength to walk away if it meant preserving her own identity, even if that meant letting Daniel learn his lessons the hard way. Days turned into weeks. Daniel's travel schedule became increasingly frenetic. Manhattan for the real estate conference, then Chicago to meet with potential investors, and finally a whirlwind trip to London for a private equity summit. Each city offered a temporary escape from the swirling rumors and Amanda's disappointed gaze. But no matter where he went, the headlines followed. He tried to ignore the pang of guilt he felt whenever he saw Amanda's photo in the news, or when he came across her foundation's updates on social media. She was forging ahead with the Children's Counseling Center, posting heartfelt stories of the families impacted by their donations. The comment sections were filled with people praising her, calling her an angel for Boston's disadvantaged youth. One evening, after wrapping up a meeting in London's financial district, Daniel strolled along the River Thames, aimless and troubled. The city lights shimmered on the water, reminding him of the Charles River back home. As he passed a quaint cafe, he spotted his old friend and mentor, Mark Sanderson, seated at an outdoor table. This was no coincidence. Mark had also travelled to London for the summit, but Daniel had deliberately avoided his calls. Still, Mark gestured for him to join, and Daniel, too tired to resist, sank into the chair. "You look like a man carrying a world of regrets," Mark observed. Daniel glared at him. "Don't start." Mark ordered another coffee for Daniel, remaining silent for a moment. Then he spoke softly. "Listen, I know you hate unsolicited advice, but have you even stopped to consider that your personal meltdown is costing you more than you think? Your board is nervous, your staff senses your instability, and you're on the verge of losing a woman many would die to have by their side." Daniel snorted. "Well, if they want her, they can have her. We don't fit anymore." "Don't fit, or you're afraid you won't live up to her belief in you," Mark countered. "That's nonsense," Daniel snapped, though his heart pounded at the uncanny accuracy of Mark's words. Mark sighed. "A friend in Boston told me Amanda's forging ahead with that counseling center. She's basically single-handedly tackling mental health issues among underprivileged kids, doing something genuinely transformative. And what are you doing, Daniel? Piling more deals onto your plate. That's not a life. It's a treadmill you can't get off." Silence hung between them, broken only by the chatter of nearby tourists. Finally, Mark rose to pay the bill, leaving Daniel alone with his thoughts. After Mark left, Daniel sat there, replaying Mark's words. Slowly, a trickle of memories returned, of Amanda staying up late to help him refine his pitch for Caldwell Capital's first round of funding, of how she had championed his dream of success when he was just starting out. It dawned on him that she'd never once demanded he slow down or compromise his ambition. She'd only asked him to share himself with her, to let her be part of his journey. Yet somewhere along the way, he'd decided that was too much to ask. That night, alone in his hotel room, Daniel scrolled through old photos on his phone, moments from their early years of marriage. He found a short video clip from an anniversary trip to Cape Cod. Amanda was laughing, wearing a sun hat that nearly blew off in the wind while he tried to steady the camera. Her laughter was so genuine, so filled with love. He realized, with a stab of regret, how rarely he heard that laughter now. For the first time in months, Daniel allowed himself to feel the full weight of what he might lose. He understood that divorcing Amanda wouldn't magically erase his fears or insecurities. If anything, it might amplify them. He closed his eyes, the phone still in his hand, and a single thought emerged. What if Amanda wasn't the obstacle to his happiness, but rather the key he'd been overlooking? The next day he booked an early flight back to Boston. He didn't have a plan, just an urgent sense that he needed to see Amanda, to talk to her face to face before it was truly too late. Daniel arrived at the mansion late in the afternoon, jet-lagged and filled with dread. To his surprise, the house was quiet. No staff bustling around, no clatter from the kitchen. He walked through the empty corridors, noticing that some of Amanda's personal touches were missing. Photos from the mantel, her favorite throw blanket from the couch, even a few books from the shelves. Alarm surged in his chest. He called out her name. No answer. He tried her phone, which went directly to voicemail. Anxiety gnawed at him. Had she already left him for good? Finally, he remembered she might be at the new counseling center site, located in Roxbury, near a renovated community building. Without bothering to change out of his rumpled suit, he hopped into his car and drove there, weaving through city traffic. Sure enough, parked in front of the building was Amanda's SUV. Daniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He entered the building cautiously, following the sounds of laughter and conversation. He found Amanda in a half-finished reception area, showing color swatches to a group of volunteers. She looked radiant, even though her hair was pulled into a messy bun and paint smudged her jeans. The sight of her dedication made Daniel's heart twist. When Amanda noticed him, her smile faded. She excused herself from the volunteers, walking over with guarded eyes. "What are you doing here?" I got back from London," he stammered. "Wanted to see you." She crossed her arms, gaze cool. "Well, you found me." He cleared his throat, searching for the words. "Can we talk? In private?" Amanda nodded curtly, leading him to an unoccupied office space. The walls were bare, and dust still coated the windowsills. It smelled of fresh paint. She turned to face him, arms still folded. Daniel inhaled. "Look, I'm sorry. About everything, the gala, the rumors pushing you away. I realize how messed up things have been." Her eyes flashed with hurt. "That's putting it lightly. You wanted a divorce." He lowered his gaze. "I thought that was the only way out of my own head. I kept thinking you were holding me back. But that was a lie I told myself. You were never the problem, Amanda. It was my fear of failure, of going back to where I came from, of never being enough." Her stance softened slightly, though her guard remained. "I tried to help, Daniel. I tried so many times to reach you. You refused to let me in." He nodded, shame coloring his face. "I know, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm here wanting to try, to fix this." Silence stretched between them, thick with unresolved pain and flickers of hope. At last Amanda spoke, voice shaking. "Why now? Because the tabloids are onto our problems? Because your investors are worried?" "Maybe that's what forced me to see how much I could lose," he admitted. "But it's more than that. I'm done running. I want to face my fears and let you in, if you'll have me." She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Daniel, I'm not sure I can just open my arms and pretend everything's okay. I'm exhausted. I've built something good here, and it took every ounce of my strength to keep going while you threatened to tear us apart." Daniel stepped closer, his voice raw. "I understand, but I love you. I always have, even when I was too blind and arrogant to show it." A half-bitter laugh escaped her. "Love requires action, not just words. If you want me to believe in us again, you need to work for it. Counseling, honesty, actually being present. No more secrets, no more running away to hotel suites or foreign cities whenever stress hits." He nodded fervently. "Anything. I'll do whatever it takes. Just, please, let's try." They stood there, hearts pounding in a dusty office of a nearly finished counseling center. The very project that Amanda had poured her soul into, the same project Daniel had ignored. Slowly, tentatively, she placed a hand on his cheek. He closed his eyes at her touch, emotion surging through him. Maybe this was a beginning, maybe it was too late. But for once, Daniel Caldwell was genuinely willing to gamble on love rather than money. True to his word, Daniel took immediate steps toward change. He cancelled a string of non-urgent business trips, delegated responsibilities at Caldwell Capital, and found a reputable marriage counselor in Cambridge, a soft-spoken woman named Dr. Eleanor Kim. The first session was awkward. Daniel fidgeted in his seat, not used to baring his soul, while Amanda remained tense, arms crossed. But Dr. Kim's questions were pointed and compassionate, nudging them to articulate the anger, disappointment, and lingering affection they both harbored. Over weeks of therapy, issues came to light. Daniel admitted to a near-paralyzing fear of returning to poverty, a fear that drove him to seize every deal, often at the cost of his relationships and personal well-being. Amanda acknowledged her frustration and resentment, feeling like a showpiece in Daniel's life rather than a genuine partner. They cried, they argued, they comforted each other. Slowly, cracks began to mend as they confronted truths that had lain buried for years. Outside therapy, Daniel visited the new counseling center in Roxbury regularly, helping Amanda paint walls and meet with contractors. While there, he caught glimpses of her passion for improving other people's lives, a passion that once inspired him. The children that came by to see the progress greeted Amanda like a hero, their eyes lighting up at the prospect of a safe, welcoming space for counseling. Daniel listened as Amanda explained the center's long-term plan. Educational programs, mental health support, job training for parents. He felt a stirring in his chest he hadn't experienced in a long time, admiration and a desire to help, not out of obligation, but genuine empathy. At Caldwell Capital, Daniel's staff noted the shift in his demeanor. He started asking employees about their families, showing interest in their personal growth. He set up an internal program to match employees' charitable donations, a move that surprised the board but received overwhelmingly positive feedback. When the press caught wind of it, headlines pivoted from scandal to redemption. Daniel Caldwell, a heart awakening. Despite the cynics who labeled it a PR stunt, Daniel felt for the first time that he was beginning to align his business with the values he had long suppressed. One rainy afternoon, Daniel and Amanda found themselves in the attic of the mansion, sorting through boxes of old memories. They discovered photographs from their early relationship, a spontaneous road trip to Cape Cod, a formal dinner at a charity ball, quiet Sunday mornings making pancakes in their first tiny apartment. Each memory was a testament to the love that once united them. They laughed at their outdated hairstyles. Amanda teased Daniel for his younger arrogance, and Daniel marveled at Amanda's unwavering positivity. In one corner of the attic, Daniel came across a dusty guitar case. "I forgot I even had this," he murmured, opening it to reveal a worn acoustic guitar he hadn't touched in years. Amanda's eyes lit up. "You used to play for me all the time. You wrote that silly song about us living by the sea someday." He strummed a few chords, fingers stumbling from lack of practice, but the sound filled the attic with a gentle, nostalgic warmth. Amanda smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe we can still find that dream," she said softly. Their reconciliation wasn't a fairy tale. They still had differences to navigate. Harsh words occasionally slipped out when tensions ran high, and the specter of divorce papers remained a possibility if they failed to rebuild trust. But they were making a concerted effort, stepping into each other's worlds, sharing vulnerabilities, and forging small moments of intimacy. As the days passed, Daniel began to realize that real success was not about dominating the market or flaunting his wealth. It was about having a partner who believed in him and building a life grounded in purpose. And Amanda started to trust his intentions again, seeing tangible actions that aligned with the love he professed. They were, at long last, moving forward, tentatively, but together. Over the next couple of months, the counseling center in Roxbury neared completion, symbolizing the healing journey that Daniel and Amanda had undertaken. The final coat of paint dried on the walls. Donated furniture arrived from local businesses, and the center's small library was stocked with books on mental health, parenting, and personal development. Amanda and her volunteer team organized a soft launch event, inviting community members to tour the space and learn about upcoming programs. Daniel watched Amanda address the gathering, families, city council members, and even some of Caldwell Capital's biggest clients who wanted to see where their donations had gone. Her voice resonated with a confident warmth he had always admired, but never fully appreciated. As he looked around the bright, welcoming space, he felt something shift inside him. This was no mere philanthropic project. It was an embodiment of everything Amanda stood for: empathy, empowerment, and unwavering hope. After the event, the couple mingled with guests. Catherine O'Neill, who had remained a steadfast friend, offered them both a congratulatory hug. "This place is fantastic," she gushed. "And I can see the two of you are so much stronger now." Amanda smiled, meeting Daniel's eyes. He squeezed her hand, silent gratitude passing between them. Indeed, they had come far from the brink of divorce. Though the legal papers still existed, neatly tucked away in a drawer, neither felt compelled to finalize them anymore. As the crowd began to disperse, Amanda led Daniel into a small therapy room, painted a calming shade of blue. A bookshelf stood in one corner, and a couple of comfy chairs faced each other, separated by a low table. "This is my favorite spot in the entire center," she confided. "Children and their parents can come here and just talk." He nodded. "It's peaceful." She took a breath, her voice catching. "Daniel, I want to thank you, not just for donating money, but for really being part of this. It reminds me of why I fell in love with you, your vision, your passion when you truly care about something." He reached for her hands, his own trembling slightly. "I nearly lost you because I couldn't see beyond my fears. If anyone is a savior here, it's you. You saved me from myself." They stood in quiet understanding, hearts beating in sync. A gentle knock on the door interrupted the moment. Mark Sanderson poked his head in, smiling broadly. "Hey, sorry to intrude, but the mayor wants a quick word with both of you." Amanda laughed. "Sure, let's go." Before leaving the room, Daniel paused, turning to face her. "You ready for this next chapter?" She smiled, eyes shining. "Absolutely." Days later, they sat together in their lawyer's office. The preliminary divorce agreement lay on the table, untouched. Their lawyer, Elizabeth Ung, studied them. "So what do you want to do about these documents?" Exchanging a glance, Daniel gently slid the stack of papers back toward Elizabeth. "We'd like to withdraw the petition," he said. "We're committed to working on our marriage." Amanda placed her hand atop his, adding, "We've started therapy, and we're actually listening to each other now. We believe there's a future for us, together." Elizabeth smiled. "I'm happy to hear that. I'll handle the paperwork." Walking out of the office, Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. He gazed at Amanda, thinking about the woman she had always been, kind, relentless in her compassion, and unwavering in her belief that people could grow beyond their limitations. She was, without a doubt, the savior he had been searching for, but more importantly, she was his partner, an equal in every sense. Hand in hand, they stepped into the sunshine of a crisp Boston afternoon, hearts full of renewed hope. Ahead of them lay the promise of many more challenges, both in business and in life, but they would face each challenge side by side, fueled by a love that had been tested in fire and emerged stronger than ever. Life often tests us in unexpected ways, and Daniel Caldwell learned this when he nearly lost everything he once took for granted. In his race to outsmart the market and outrun his deepest fears, he pushed aside the one person who had steadfastly believed in him, his wife, Amanda. Yet when fate forced him to confront his own failings, he discovered that the very woman he wanted to divorce was his greatest ally. Through counseling, compassion, and a shared purpose to serve their community, Daniel and Amanda found new reasons to fight for their marriage. Their story reminds us that real love isn't just about glittering moments, but about persevering through darkness to uncover the light on the other side. If you were moved by Daniel and Amanda's journey, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more stories that celebrate the power of resilience, hope, and love.